Hello, my dear friends. I'm really happy that you're here today. Whether you're listening on your way home, taking a quiet walk, sitting by the window with a warm cup of tea, or simply looking for a quiet moment after a long day, I hope this episode brings you a little peace. Lately, I've been thinking about something, a simple question. But sometimes, the simplest questions are the hardest to answer. Are you living a life that truly feels like your own? Not a life that looks successful from the outside. Not a life that impresses other people, but a life that feels right to you. A life that allows you to sleep peacefully at night. A life that feels like home. I think many of us have wondered about this at some point, especially in our 20s and 30s. It is a strange season of life. Everything seems to be moving so quickly. Friends are getting promoted. People are getting married. Some are buying houses. Some are starting businesses. Some are traveling around the world. And sometimes, while watching everyone else move forward, we quietly look at our own lives and wonder, am I doing enough? Am I already behind? A few years ago, a young woman shared a story online. One morning, she woke up and picked up her phone. Before even getting out of bed, she opened social media. A friend had just finished a master's degree. Another friend had started a new job. Someone was posting pictures from Paris. Someone else had just bought their first apartment. She kept scrolling. Then she stopped, put her phone down, and stared at the ceiling. She was only 26 years old, but somehow she already felt late. What stayed with me was not her story. It was one sentence, she said afterward. It feels like everyone knows where they're going, except me. Maybe you've felt that way too. I think many people have. But over time, I realized something important. We usually see other people's results. We rarely see their struggles, their doubts, their failures, their sleepless nights. Looking at someone's success without seeing their journey is a little like looking at a beautiful garden and forgetting that flowers don't bloom overnight. For a long time, something was happening quietly beneath the soil. And maybe the same thing is happening in your life right now. Maybe your growth is happening in places nobody can see. Maybe your roots are growing deeper. Maybe you are becoming stronger in ways that do not show up in a photo or a social media post. And maybe that matters more than you think. I remember another friend of mine. He was 28 years old. From the outside, his life looked perfectly fine. He had a stable job, a regular schedule, a comfortable apartment. Nothing seemed wrong. Every morning looked almost exactly the same. Wake up, drink coffee, go to work, answer emails, attend meetings, come home, watch a few videos, sleep, and then do it all again the next day. One evening, while having dinner with friends, someone asked him a simple question. If money wasn't a problem, what would you do? Everyone answered quickly. One person wanted to open a coffee shop. Another wanted to travel the world. Someone else wanted to write a book. My friend stayed quiet for a long time. Then he smiled and said, I honestly don't know. The table became silent for a few seconds. Then he added something I still remember today. Maybe I've been living on autopilot for too long. I think many people understand that feeling, not because they hate their lives, not because they are unhappy, but because somewhere along the way, they stopped asking themselves what they truly wanted. Life became a routine, and routines can be comforting, but sometimes they can also make us forget what once made us feel alive. There was another story that stayed with me for a long time. It was about a young woman who always did what was expected of her. She studied the subject her family recommended. She found the kind of job people called safe. She worked hard. She was responsible. She made her parents proud. And honestly, there was nothing wrong with any of those things. But one rainy evening, after work, she sat alone in her car. The rain tapped softly against the windows. The streetlights outside looked blurry through the water. She didn't turn on the engine. She didn't check her phone. She simply sat there, and for the first time in years, she asked herself a question. If nobody expected anything from me, what kind of life would I choose? I don't know why, but that question touched me deeply. Maybe because many of us spend years trying to become the person everyone else wants us to be. A good employee, a good son, a good daughter, a good partner, a successful adult. And while there is nothing wrong with any of those things, sometimes we become so busy meeting expectations that we forget to listen to ourselves. In today's world, there are so many voices around us. Family has expectations. Friends have opinions. Social media has endless advice. Every day, someone is telling us what success should look like, how much money we should earn, what age we should get married, what kind of career we should have, what kind of life we should build. And after hearing those voices for years, our own voice can become very quiet, like a small bird singing in a forest full of wind. The bird never disappeared. It's still there. We just stopped hearing it. A few years ago, one of my friends found an old box while cleaning her room. Inside were watercolor paints she hadn't touched in almost 10 years. When she was younger, she loved drawing. Her notebooks were filled with sketches, little houses, coffee shops, trees, windows, small moments from everyday life. Drawing made her happy. But then life became busy. University, work, bills, responsibilities, plans for the future. The paint box slowly disappeared into a drawer and stayed there for years. That afternoon, she opened the box again. The colors were still there, a little dusty, but still there. That night, she sat down with a blank sheet of paper and started painting. Not for money, not for social media, not to become an artist, just because she wanted to. The next day, she sent me a message. It was only one sentence. I forgot how much I loved this, and somehow that sentence made me smile, because I think many of us have something like that. A dream, a hobby, a part of ourselves that quietly fell asleep. Not because we stopped loving it, but because life became loud, and we kept saying, maybe later, when things calm down, when I have more time, when life becomes easier. But life rarely becomes less busy on its own. There will always be another task, another responsibility, another reason to wait. And sometimes, while we are waiting for the perfect moment, years quietly pass by. I once heard someone say, there are dreams that do not disappear. They simply fall asleep. I love that image because it reminds me of a garden in winter. At first glance, everything seems quiet, cold, empty. Nothing appears to be growing, but beneath the soil, life is still there, waiting, preparing, holding on until spring returns. Maybe people are a little like that too. Maybe some parts of us are not gone. Maybe they are simply waiting for us to come back. A few years ago, I read about a woman who returned to university at the age of 45. On her first day of class, she was the oldest student in the room. Most of her classmates were young enough to be her children. There were moments when she felt nervous, moments when she felt out of place, moments when she wondered if she had started too late. But she kept going. One class at a time. One assignment at a time. One day at a time. Later, someone asked her why she decided to go back to school. Her answer was simple. Because I didn't want to spend the next 10 years wondering what would have happened if I had started today. I think about that answer often, not because it sounds inspiring, but because it sounds honest. Sometimes courage doesn't look like confidence. Sometimes courage looks like finally giving yourself permission to begin. As I get older, there is one thing I notice more and more. Time feels different. When we are children, a year feels like forever. But somehow, as adults, the years begin to move faster. One day, you are 22. Then suddenly, someone asks if you remember something that happened 10 years ago, and you realize 10 years have already passed. Sometimes I look at old photographs. Maybe you do too. A picture from university, a family gathering, a trip with friends. And for a moment, it feels as if nothing has changed. Then I look closer. The faces are younger. The hairstyles are different. Some people in those pictures are no longer part of my life. Some dreams came true. Others quietly faded away. And I find myself wondering about the person I used to be. What was I worried about back then? What was I hoping for? What kind of future was I imagining? I think all of us carry older versions of ourselves inside us. The teenager who dreamed big. The young adult who wanted to see the world. The person who believed anything was possible. Those versions never completely disappear. They stay with us, quietly, like old letters stored in a box, waiting to be opened again. One evening, I was walking home just before sunset. The sky was painted in soft shades of orange and gold. People were rushing past me. Cars were moving quickly. Everyone seemed to be heading somewhere important. And yet, for a few moments, I stopped. I simply stood there and watched the sky. It wasn't a special day. Nothing extraordinary happened. But I remember feeling grateful for the wind, for the light, for the simple fact that I was there to see it. And that moment reminded me of something important. Life is not made only of big achievements. It is also made of small moments. A conversation with someone you love. A quiet morning. A favorite song playing unexpectedly. A walk home after a long day. A cup of coffee on a rainy afternoon. These moments may seem ordinary, but years later, they are often the things we remember most. I once read an interview with a woman who spent many years caring for people near the end of their lives. Someone asked her, "What do people talk about most when they look back on their lives?" Her answer surprised me. Many people did not talk about money or awards or status. Instead, they talked about chances they never took, dreams they never followed, feelings they never expressed, lives they never fully allowed themselves to live. One sentence stayed with me. Many people wished they had been brave enough to be themselves, not perfect, not extraordinary, just themselves. I thought about that for a long time, because courage is often misunderstood. We imagine courage as something dramatic, standing on a stage, taking huge risks, making life-changing decisions. But sometimes, courage is much quieter. Sometimes, courage is choosing a path that feels right for you, even when others don't understand it. Sometimes, courage is starting over. Sometimes, courage is saying no. Sometimes, courage is saying yes. And sometimes, courage is simply admitting what you truly want. There is a beautiful image that often comes to my mind. Imagine holding a compass, not the kind that shows north and south, but a compass for your life, a compass that points toward the things that matter most to you, your values, your dreams, your peace, your happiness. Now imagine spending years following other people's maps, listening to other people's directions, trying to reach destinations you never chose yourself. At some point, you may arrive exactly where everyone expected you to be and still feel lost, not because you failed, but because you forgot to check your own compass. The good news is that it is never too late to look again, never too late to pause, never too late to ask yourself, what truly matters to me? You don't need to have all the answers today. Most people don't. Life is not an exam. There is no perfect timeline, no perfect age, no perfect moment. Sometimes clarity arrives slowly, like sunrise. The sky doesn't become bright all at once. First, there is darkness, then a little light, then a little more. And before you know it, everything looks different. Maybe that is where you are right now. Maybe you are still searching. Maybe you are rebuilding. Maybe you are beginning again. Wherever you are, I hope you give yourself permission to move at your own pace. Not the pace of social media, not the pace of your friends, not the pace of strangers. Your own pace. Because flowers bloom in different seasons. Trees grow at different speeds, and every river reaches the ocean in its own way. So if lately you've felt a little lost, a little behind, or a little unsure about where life is taking you, take a deep breath, look around, and remember this: you do not need to become someone else to have a meaningful life. You do not need to win every race. You do not need to follow every path. Sometimes the most important thing is simply staying connected to yourself, to the things you love, to the dreams that still make your heart feel warm. And before we finish today's episode, I'd like to leave you with one gentle question. Many years from now, when you look back on your life, what do you hope you'll remember? The moments you spent worrying? Or the moments you truly lived? You don't have to answer right away. Just carry the question with you. Maybe one day, on a quiet morning, or during a slow walk home, the answer will find you. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Wherever you are in your journey, I hope you are kind to yourself. I hope you trust your own path. And I hope you remember that some of the most beautiful things in life take time to grow. Until next time, take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next episode.